Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, the Cleveland Cavaliers have beaten every team they've played this season.
And Tony Kornheiser, yes. But I particularly enjoyed who they beat last night. Refresh my memory again. Tell the people who they beat last night.
Two-possession game at the United Center in Chicago. Two possessions.
So it was
came close.
So was the Chicago Bulls.
Yes, they came close.
They
came closer than just about anybody to beating Cleveland. And they're not, the Bulls are not,
Close is good, but they don't really pay off on close unless it's a point spread.
Unless
it's a point spread. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Bears dumped their offensive coordinator.
Good.
Joel Embiid is finally ready to play, and Jeff Saturday joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Miami Dolphins holding the Rams to no touchdowns and beating them in Los Angeles 23-15. Matthew Stafford completed 32 passes for 293 yards, but could not get in the end zone. Tua Tagovailoa played fine for Miami, but scared everybody when he made a tackle on an interception. Yeah. Miami is now 3-6, but has the second easiest schedule remaining. The Rams are 4-5, tied for 10th in the NFC with your Bears. Wilbon, how does this result affect your perception of each team?
I don't have a perception of either of these teams, and I'm not going to let myself fall for the nonsense that everybody now looks at. Well, are they eliminated yet? They're not officially eliminated. They could run the table.
They could.
This is nonsense, okay? And by the way, the Dolphins are pretty good, but the Dolphins had that period without Tua when they're a completely different team, and they were 2-6, and they're not going to be relevant this season. Now the Rams, who by winning last night could have been very relevant.
Yes.
They're at home, and they lost that game. And by the way, they take the field goal late, and I get it because you're down. You're cutting 11-8.
Yes.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
Except there's no way in hell they're going to score. They're not even going to get the onside kick, but they're not going to score a touchdown because they couldn't the whole game. They're irrelevant now, too. Both these teams, irrelevant.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I will say that the Dolphins are not going to catch Buffalo.
No.
So they're going to have to pile up 9 wins somehow to get into the playoffs as a wild card.
That means 6 and...
Well, okay, let me tell you who they got coming up. The first 2 games are the Raiders and the Patriots. They can win those games.
Good.
Then they have 2 with the Jets and 1 with Cleveland. So that looks like 5 wins.
Looks 5 possible.
They are better, as you have said, with Tua.
Yes.
Which is better. Why your heart is in your mouth when on the interception he puts his head down to make the tackle. Yeah. Look, it is his choice to play. It is apparently his right to play. I get that. That doesn't mean I don't have fear when I see him out there.
When I watch him, it makes me nervous. I'm watching him, even when, because we've seen routine tackles result in a concussion for him.
Don't tackle. Pull him off the field.
I'm going to say this, and maybe this is a little weird. I watch him, and I'm fearful, and part of me saying, please, kid, you have enough money already. But then part of me is thinking, there's a lot of courage. He has a lot of courage.
Not knocking that.
To be out on the field knowing that one of these hits could not just send him away from football,
so if it happens when you're passing or running, fine.
Oh, my God.
But not if you're making a tackle and leading with your head. And by the way, just quickly on the Rams, you have to beat, when you're at home, you have to beat a 2-6 team. You have to do that. And the Rams I think they've got the Bills and the Eagles and the 49ers coming up. So I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think
neither of these teams is relevant any longer.
At the moment. Let's move on. Wilbon, you called another Bears moment.
It was easy.
As you predicted and wanted, the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron.
Good. His
replacement is Thomas Brown, the alleged passing game coordinator. Caleb Williams will remain the starting quarterback. What does this move say to you about the organization?
They got it wrong with hiring this guy as the offensive coordinator. Whether that was Ryan Poles, the GM, or Matt Eberflus, the coach, or some combination thereof, he wasn't the guy. And it's really set them back now.
They could have had Cliff Kingsbury,
well, maybe.
Right?
But if Cliff Kingsbury, if they wanted him to be there for more than a year because they didn't want to change again, that intent is great. But then you wind up with this, where this guy's not even there a year. Look, this doesn't solve everything. And I hope this offensive coordinator, this new guy, maybe he's got something. Maybe he's a guy who needed a chance, and this is how you get it. But, Tony, this is a franchise that knows nothing about offensive football forever.
Yeah.
That still has more championships, not Super Bowls, championships than any team in the NFL, and none of them were won on the offensive side of the ball, and that includes now. So now Caleb Williams' maturation, I'm scared it's retarded. I hope it's not because I love the kid. And I don't know if they know what they're doing with hiring an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And then they got to go out if this guy's not spectacular and get another one. Okay? So this is what we live with when you're a Bears fan and you talk about offensive football. Nobody knows what they're doing.
I understand why they want Caleb Williams to keep starting. I would not do this. I would not do this because I think, Mike, as you think, this season is lost.
It's done.
And he keeps taking a lot of sacks. 9 sacks in the previous game, 38 in the season, the highest in the NFL. Now, maybe he holds the ball too long, but I think he's got to sit down and watch. And I'm going to give you some examples. You take quarterbacks from bad teams. Bryce Young, Carolina, bad team. Sat for a few games, came back in, not setting the world on fire, but has won 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
Drake Mace, bad team, New England. Sat the first 5 games. He is now 2-3, only has, I think, 14 sacks in 5+ games. I don't think that there's a stigma to sitting down for a while and learning what the pro game is.
There's a stigma, but it's
Mike, if he is your long-term investment, treat him like your long-term investment.
Is coach him. The last quarterback they traded up to get, and they didn't coach him adequately, Tony. The problem is not personnel. It's not Caleb Williams. The problem is failed coaching. And if you want to say anything about the organization, it is that when it comes to the offensive side of the game, there's failed coach after failed coach after failed coach.
Yeah.
And I hope that Ryan Poles can get it right. Because you know what?
Mike, they could get rid of everybody. They could go top down, GM all the way down, throw them all out.
That's not how that franchise does business.
They could.
That's not how they do business. But the head coach, he's on the clock.
Oh, yeah. Well, you said he'd be out.
And what's my man in Detroit? Is the offensive coordinator in Detroit?
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. I'm looking lovingly up I-94. That's what I'd be doing. 2 big stories to watch is the NBA Cup games, and I'm rolling my eyes, get underway tonight. Philly, Joel Embiid is going to make his season debut finally for the 2-7 Sixers against your Knickerbockers. And 3,000 miles away in San Francisco, Klay Thompson will face the Warriors for the first time ever now that he's a Maverick. Tony, which one is the bigger deal?
So I'm going to yield to you eventually, but from where I'm sitting, it seems to me like Klay Thompson is the bigger deal. He has 4 rings there, and not to put too fine a point on it, Joel Embiid ain't got no rings. Okay? Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are, and I use this word advisedly, an immortal backcourt. Just absolutely immortal backcourt. Now, people get old. You and I got old sitting here. But he was a great player there. Sometimes it's time to move on. I will say this. He moved on without rancor, and I'd be stunned if he doesn't get a standing ovation.
He's going to get one of the longest standing ovations you've ever seen.
Embiid might get a standing ovation as well, because they're nothing without him. Right. He hasn't played in a game, and they're 2-7. So he's going to play tonight, but it's the first of a back-to-back. And he has said, I don't want to play back-to-backs. So this is a first of 15 back-to-backs. Yeah. So by the math, he could miss at least 24 games without getting hurt, and he always gets hurt. I told you this before. If I'm a season ticket holder at Philadelphia, I'm screaming consumer fraud.
Well, they're screaming. I don't know that it's anything as sophisticated as consumer fraud. Tony, the bigger deal. This is hard for me because Joel Embiid is
your boy.
Well,
he is.
That's not important. Joel Embiid, when he's on the court, is unstoppable. He's as unstoppable as any big out there. When it comes to being able to score whenever he needs to, wants to. Right. Yes, he gets hurt in the playoffs, but right now, so they need him back. And they are screaming in Philly, as you and I have gone over many days. Klay Thompson, though, this is a one-time deal where it's your first time back.
Yeah.
And Klay Thompson is beloved there. I was there every postseason since 2014. He's beloved as anybody who's not named Steph Curry.
Yeah.
All right? So
you agree it's an immortal backcourt.
It is immortal backcourt. Well said.
Yes.
And so the ovation for him will be tearful. And he ain't going to shed the only tears. Don't tell me Draymond Green and Steph and Steve Kerr aren't going to be emotional because they should be. Everybody in the house will be. Klay Thompson is that important to that franchise and those titles.
Which camera? That camera, I hope. Let's take a break. Coming up. What goes into drawing a player offside? We're going to ask Jeff. Oh, look at that. Ask Jeff Saturday.
We're also going to ask him whether he leans toward Deebo Samuel or the Niners long snapper in that sideline dust-up from
I think Klay Thompson has a better chance of reaching the finals this year. Time to dig into the football trenches with our great friend, ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday. And Jeff, I'm going off script here because Mike and I live in Washington, D.C., and we pay attention to the Washington football team. And they had a chance to beat Pittsburgh the other day. It comes down to the last play. It's a 4th and 1. Pittsburgh lines up with Russell Wilson under center like they're going to snap it, but you know they're not going to snap it. Everybody knows they're not going to snap it, and they trapped a rookie defensive tackle into jumping. You've been on the other side of that as the center. Explain what happened.
Love it when a plan comes together. That's the best way, right? I mean, so offense, you get in the huddle or you're right, and the call in the no play. Ready, let's go. Everybody runs to the line of scrimmage. All the offensive linemen get down in there in as low a position as possible because you're trying to implicate you're going to run the QB sneak, right? Something quick, something hitting up in the A gaps. So everybody's going to tighten up. Usually the defensive line and the defensive ends are screaming, watch the cadence. You know, no snap. The linebackers are yelling. Everybody's yelling. And then the quarterback will start going through his cadence. Now, when he does that, as an older center who wasn't afraid to break a rule or stretch it, I would, when the cadence says hut, I'd give a little squeeze on the ball, right? Little twitch, maybe, you know. Is it in the rules? I don't know. I don't know if it is or isn't, but we do it. And the quarterback, his hands are under your butt. And when he gives a little flick, right? You're hoping that the defensive lineman sees something and it just triggers instinct and they fire out. Fortunately for them, they got the young man. He's a rookie. You know, everybody in his family, all his friends are like, no, not my baby, not my man. You know, but it has happened to all of us. But let me give you one worse. Because when you're an offensive lineman, and this has happened more often than I would like to admit, when you jump off sides in a no play, and then Peyton Manning looks at you and go, hey, what play were you running? And you go, it's a great question. So we've all been there. We've all been there.
Great.
That's great.
Great. Needed clarity on that. Yeah.
That is wonderful. You can ask about the Chiefs?
No, it's over.
We're not going to ask about the Chiefs.
We're not going to ask about the
All
Chiefs.
right, we're
We're
going straight to the Bears, and you know this hurts me deeply. This guy, Thomas Brown, the passing coordinator, comes into a new gig after his boss was fired. He has no line. He has no offensive line. He's got 4 of those guys hurt. His quarterback is now skittish. He's in a situation where the offense has never been good in like 100 years. Jeff, what's his priority? Where does this guy start to turn around a now dreadful season?
Yeah, no negative plays. If you can drive home anything to Caleb Williams at this point when he is feeling like the game is flying, is no negative. It is not a bad thing to throw the ball away. Stop looking for the big play to develop downfield. Let's get the ball out of our hands on time. Let's move the pocket, half-field reads, small reads, but make sure the ball is coming out of your hand on time. We can live with all the rest of it. We can punt. We have a good enough defense to keep us in games. And honestly, you don't want to say this to him, but we know it ain't about wins at this point. It's about developing the future of your franchise. And by doing that and him finding rhythm, that will breed confidence. Then you take the shots. But it all starts in incremental steps. And it has to start with no negative plays. Don't take sacks. Don't throw the ball to the other team. Make sure it's on time to your guy. It doesn't have to be touchdowns, just completions and move the ball. That's where we start.
We'll get you out of here on this. This is a great question for an offensive lineman. Deebo Samuel got into it with Niners long snapper Tabor Pepper after Jake Moody missed for the 3rd time in that game. As a center, do you feel a kinship with the long snapper who sort of does what you do, or would you share Deebo's frustration over 3 missed kicks?
I'm probably sharing the frustration by Deebo, if I'm being honest, right? Now, I share a kinship. Justin Snow was our long snapper forever. That's my guy. And so I loved him. We had Vinatieri, you know, in the latter portion of my career, so I wouldn't worry about him missing 3. I can understand the frustration, and you know what? In fairness, I can understand the long snapper taking up for his guy, right? So I don't mind it at all, and I think a lot of people are like, well, you know, what happened? I'm going to tell you that, you know, the sideline of a football field and the bench it ain't choir practice, y'all. Like we don't always get along. There's a lot of things said to each other during games that you're glad aren't put on a mic and everybody hears. It is what it is. They're going to get through it. Nobody's going to go home hurt feelings. Everybody's going to get over it in a hurry. So honestly, I didn't mind either of the guys' reactions. And fortunately for them, they get the win. Moody makes that big kick, and hopefully that spurs them on to some wins.
Thank you, Jeff. As always, thank you.
Thank you.
Love y'all. Appreciate you.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Cowboys announced some bad news about Dak Prescott.
How much more bad news about Dak Prescott can there be?
No.
It's just like a repetitive.
It's out for the season.
Huh?
It's out for the season. Everybody knows that.
Get up and first take now. Cooper Flag and Duke. Big test tonight.
You spend a lot of money on clothing. Do you think Jeff is wearing a tuxedo? Like, is he wearing a tuxedo?
Classic midnight blue.
I mean, is that?
I think he's wearing an Eaton shirt.
Is he going out tonight?
No, Jeff is well dressed.
Well,
Jeff knows
from you, that means something.
Jeff knows what he's
from
doing.
You.
Huh?
Responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 80th birthday, Al Michaels. Okay, he's our good friend. He's also one of the greatest sports announcers of all time. He had the call in the 1980 Olympic hockey game, Do You Believe in Miracles? One of the most famous calls ever. He did Hagler Hearns,
Ooh.
8 Minutes of Fury.
Ooh.
He's done football, baseball, basketball, hockey. He's worked with Howard Cosell, Doc Rivers, Chris Collinsworth, Bob Uecker, John Madden, Hubie Brown, Ken Dryden, Jim Palmer. Al has worked with everybody except us.
Yeah.
He had a great game last Thursday, Baltimore and Cincinnati. This Thursday's game, Washington and Philadelphia, should be great too. Happy birthday, Uncle Big Al.
Wow.
Wilbonny's probably on the 5th hole at Bel Air right now.
Could be at the turn. Let me just say this. I love hearing Al with everybody, all those people you just mentioned. I wanted to hear more of him and Doc Rivers calling the NBA together. Because I loved when they did that, before Doc got in a long coaching career. But I'm just saying.
Well, you know what you can find them together doing? Playing golf at Bel Air.
Yeah, not today,
At Bel Air.
Not today.
Happy anniversary, Mookie Betts. On this day 7 years ago, the now 3-time World Series champ bowled a 300 game at the PBA World Series of Bowling. Betts said it was the 10th 300 game he'd rolled. Betts won the PBA Celebrity Open in 2019. Typically, Betts bowls with professional Tommy Jones in pro celebrity events like the CP3 event. Wow. They won over Terrell Owens and Pete Weber. Betts has 3 World Series rings. He has an AL MVP from when he was with Boston. He's part of a devastating top of the order with the Dodgers, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. He's been an All-Star 8 times, and he's bowled 10 300 games. Wilbon, you bowl.
Yeah.
How many 300 games you got?
Exactly 0. But I know somebody who's rolled at least 1. And the names are very similar, just add an I. My man Jerome Bettis. I will take Bettis and go against Mookie and whoever he wants to grab. I'll take Bettis. Bettis has at least 1 300 game. I know this for certain.
Does he have 10? Does he have 10?
I don't know. You believe
10,
Bettis really has 10?
10, wow.
10's a lot.
A melancholy trails John Robinson. The longtime coach died Monday from pneumonia at the age of 89. Robinson was synonymous with football in Los Angeles for more than 20 years, with 2 stints at USC, sandwiching 9 seasons with the Rams. At USC, Robinson shared a national title in 1978 and coached Heisman Trophy winners Charles White and Marcus Allen, along with legends like Ronnie Lott, Bruce Matthews, and Anthony Munoz. Quote, "It was all coaching," Robinson once joked to The Athletic. "They really weren't worth a bleep until I got hold of them," unquote. Robinson's best friend since childhood was the late John Madden.
Tony, you think about the glamour associated with SC and the Rams. John Robinson, he was there. He oversaw much, if not all of that. I mean, he helped give them definition, which, by the way, neither one of those programs, even though the Rams have won a Super Bowl.
Not right now.
They don't have that right now.
Not right
no,
now.
They don't.
And also a melancholy trails Jerry Faust, the former Notre Dame head coach who also died yesterday at the age of 89. The Irish hired Faust in 1980 out of Moeller High School in Cincinnati, where he had been 178, 23-2. It was an incredibly bold move on the part of Notre Dame. The school let Faust coach the full 5 years of his deal, and he had some big moments in that time, like the upset of Dan Marino in #1 Pitt, but ultimately it did not work. Notre Dame then switched to an established coach, Lou Holtz, and that did work.
Tony, I was a really young sports writer covering college football for the Washington Post, and I went out to South Bend when Coach Faust was struggling, and it was awkward to watch. It was he ultimately knew he's not going to get that done. But you know what? Nobody I've ever met in sports is more gracious than Jerry Faust.
That's nice to know. Quick to the big finish. Dak Prescott, surgery on his hamstring, out for the season. Your thoughts?
My thought is I hope he gets to come back and play somewhere else without the drama of Dallas. Anywhere else. college football playoff rankings out tonight. What are you watching for?
Where is Miami? Where is Georgia? Where is Indiana? The Cavs beat your Bulls and now 12-0. What do you like about them?
You know what I like about Kenny Atkinson? He's playing 10 guys, 16 minutes or more. Spread the wealth. I love the way they're playing. 14-1 Winnipeg Jets take on the Rangers tonight. Who you got?
I love the Rangers, but I'll take the Jets. They seem to be really
roll.
hot. Last one, college hoops tonight. 6th-ranked Duke meets 19th-ranked Kentucky in Atlanta. What intrigues you?
You know what intrigues me. You know what intrigues us all? We're going to watch Duke. In my house, we're going to watch Duke and a young man from Maine. You going to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to try to watch
Watching
that.
that.
We're out of time.
Yeah.
We'll try and do better the next time, and I am Tony Cornell.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcast. Our friend Kendrick Perkins says
What did he
it
say?
is the
Everything.
real deal.
He's everything
The real deal.
that it's stacked up to be,
see it.
right?
That's what we hear.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
From Maine. You don't expect it.
No, you don't.
You don't. Yeah.
Your sports center.